Or let's restart that.
No, if you go ahead.
Yeah. No, you no. Snort.
Okay. Since we talked a lot about the struggles that we've had with multicultural wedding planning and just relationships in general, we wanted to also do a contrast video about the perks and the good parts about having a multicultural relationship or interracial relationship, because there are some really great parts of it, and we didn't want it to be a downer the whole time.
All negative, yeah.
All negative, yeah.
Because there's far more positives than there are.
Should have taken Zyrtec.
First of all, she's awesome. I mean, that's probably the most positive thing.
You're pretty great too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the times. But no, I think that's something that we both felt strongly about each other very early on, and that I know it probably doesn't even account for being interracial or not, and we just kind of looked past that and just decided to give it a shot.
I wasn't looking for anything specific with any specific culture or background or race or anything like that. Was open to meeting all different people. Things can get boring when everything's always the same, and I like the adventure of it all. How interesting things can be.
I feel like I make it more of an adventure than it could have been.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But for me, like I said, I didn't want to box myself in any way or miss out on something awesome. It's all about the person. It's all about the connection that you have with that person. And to me, it didn't matter what the race or the culture or the background was. But it's been great just for me getting to learn more about a different culture and a different background, and to share life with someone who approaches things a little bit differently at times. And for me, I think that's a good thing. If we both have the same perspective about everything, then you're going to miss some stuff. You're not going to always see other viewpoints or other opportunities. And to me, it's a real benefit, I think.
Yeah, I would say majority of my relationships have been interracial. And it is also not something I'm aware of it, definitely, because of the fact that I'm, moved from a different country here, and you kind of notice and everything else. But I think just because of that, I also have like Brad just said, a very different perspective on everything. I wanted to learn more about everybody else that I meet. I look for that connection. It helped that Brad was semi-good looking. But just, having a conversation and everything else. And if there's sparks, and not just physically, but also I'm a very driven person, not just in career, but also just normal life. And I'm very curious about all the things. So if someone can't keep up with that, it would probably cause problems sooner than later. So that was also one of the things that we connected on, was just having that drive and just curiosity. And I think our banter is one that probably a lot of people enjoy and talk about.
She makes fun of me a lot.
A lot. He's old.
But I do remember very early on, it was when things first started getting serious between us. She lived downtown at the time, and we were walking to lunch. And as we were walking, she's like, "Oh, those people over there are staring at us." And I said, "Yeah, they just don't know how I belong with someone as awesome looking as you.
That's not why they were staring.
As good looking as you." They're like, "She's way out of his league."
I think the staring is something that I've been aware of for a long time, I would say. It used to bother me. Sometimes it still does bother me, just because I think, why. People have said something, and that's just an uncomfortable situation, but you just kind of move past it, and that, as long as you're secure and the other person's secure, like I'm glad I was able to tell him like that's what's gonna happen, and if the other person is not comfortable with that, and you do you if you're not comfortable with that, but just wanted to make sure that he was prepared for that, because that was, for lack of a better term, just the beginning, right? Because I feel like other people or like we've had those things happen to us after that or since then.
Yeah, I mean, you can, as she knows far more so than I do, and many of you know far more so than I do, there are different types of stares, and you can tell the difference, right? And I lived in South Korea and in China, and I've traveled quite a bit, and I've been in places where I stuck out like a sore thumb. Look at the white guy over there, and everybody stares, and you could tell when people are staring just out of curiosity, or they're staring a bit more negatively, like, what is he doing here? He doesn't belong here. But that's a negative, and we're here to talk about positives.
I know, right? I was just thinking about that. But I mean, it's not a negative as in like we're not bothered by it. I think we embrace it, and we actually, go into the situation knowing that like this is gonna happen, but like we just be ourselves. And I think that's something that we both embraced, is being ourselves and not being afraid to just being silly. We're silly a lot in all different areas and all different situations. We dance like fools. We just kind of go into it, and then we're like, okay, like once they get to see how we are around each other, it doesn't matter, which is also, I think, the biggest positive of the relationship. The other thing is also, I know Brad brought up a lot about just like getting to know my culture, but something that I've also appreciated is getting to know his culture. And I know a lot of people are just like, well, like, you're white, what is your culture? Like, but it's been helpful to just know how and where his background is and how he was raised and everything else, because that shaped a lot of our talks about relationships, about family, raising kids. But yeah, it's been really helpful to just talk with him about this, I don't know, the state of the country and everything else, and just understanding, with the George Floyd case and everything else, because I will say that from being an Asian Indian immigrant, like I learned so much more about what was happening and what I could do and everything else, and the impact that it had by just our conversations. So I think that is something that I definitely will take forward, and a positive.
It's always good to learn as much as you can about all perspectives, so you can be as informed as possible, even if you already know that perspective is not for you, or you already know that perspective is completely wrong. Trying to learn to understand it can be helpful in strengthening what you think, what you believe, what you know to be true, but it can also help you in approaching other people who don't think the same way that you do and understanding. And that's something that I have tried to do throughout my adult life, and continue to try to do, is to not assume that I understand what someone else is talking about, where they're coming from, and trying to let them teach me about that, trying to let them tell me. And the same thing goes for the perspective of people that, you might not agree with. Being open to other cultures and other backgrounds and really listening to what they have to say really can help. And that's one of the things that's been fantastic about our relationship, and for me, learning from the Indian perspective, not just from the perspective of, actually being in India and what it's like growing up there and what the culture's like, but then being an immigrant and what it's like immigrating to this country as a child, and adjusting language and adjusting culture, and learning how to do things and how you're perceived, what are the struggles, what are the roadblocks in moving forward with some of those things, and what are the differences sadly for different races in that being the case. It's very different for an Indian American versus an African American, an Asian American. They all have very unique experiences and different challenges, and learning those and understanding those has been a big part of some of the conversations that we have had, and has been fantastic. And that's one of the very positive things about interracial, intercultural relationships, whether they're romantic or just friends or anything like that, is you really get to learn about other people and other perspectives in a way that you would never learn on your own. And you have to be exposed to it. You have to be around it. And for me, that's been great. It's been great to learn. It's been great to grow together in understanding a lot of these things, trying to understand, learning what we don't know, what we don't understand, all those sorts of things. So it's been a lot of fun.
And then I guess the third thing would be food. It's Brad's favorite thing.
I literally was thinking the same thing. I almost didn't pause. I almost didn't pause from talking. I was almost going to go. But the most important thing about intercultural and interracial is food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same wavelength here.
I know. But yeah, Brad, I love food. I don't think I can ever understand how much someone loves food as much as Brad does, but I thought I was good, but like he's on a different level. But I think one of the positives has been that, well, I guess, so he's been able to experience a lot of home-cooked Indian food. My mom loves to bring stuff over, and also got a lot when we went to India. Mm-hmm. So that was a really great experience, because I think, I've told this to several of my friends that everything we get in an Indian restaurant is really not how people eat over there. That's almost like too rich food, or just like, I don't know, just like too much. Anyways, but he was able to experience that. He was able to experience my mom's like really like what we used to eat growing up on a daily basis. And then on my side, I've been able to experience food also, not just like, there's no such thing really like as an American food, but like it's not.
A hamburger between two pizzas?
Okay.
That's purely American.
Oh my God.
Purely American and wonderful.
Anyways, but like, it's more of how much we like to like try different things together, and we've been able to kind of experience a lot of different cuisines, some that have been our favorite together, and like see how they compare and see how we feel about those, like learning how to cook some of those. That's been really helpful as well. Mm-hmm.
And you learn, so I've always say you learn so much about culture and other people through food. Mm-hmm. That's why meals are so important in almost every culture. There's some sort of meal that revolves around a holiday or special occasion or certain times. You learn so much. And I love to travel. Sadly, with COVID, we haven't been able to travel as much, but I've been to a lot of different places. Can't wait to get to a lot more. But every place I go, my favorite thing to do is to try the food, because that's one of the ways that you can really learn about culture, what's important to them, the history, traditions. Everything is tied up in food for people. And I love learning about those things and trying those foods. I will try anything once, and literally anything once. And
I will not try.
I've eaten a lot of weird stuff, and some of it's good, some of it's not. But it's great to try. I love just kind of being a part of that and being able to have these meals with people and learn from them and through them. And it's my favorite thing about traveling. It's my favorite thing about life, probably, besides you and the puppies, is food and drinks. Drinks go right along with that, hand in hand.
Yeah.
But being open to trying new foods is really one of the ways that it's to learn about culture. And that's one of the great things for us, is that I'll try anything. I'm down for it. She'll try most things, mm-hmm. and she's down for it. So we're able to learn not just about each other and the foods that our families traditionally make, but what other people do as well.
Yeah. And that's also kind of, I know we've talked on our channel about the difficulties we had about catering and everything else, but I think that was one of, if you couldn't tell, one of the important things to both of us. So we made sure that was priority, and that's kind of also why we felt so strongly about some of the options that we had, or like the caterer options that we had that who weren't so open to our ideas. But we're looking forward to having a really delicious, varied spread of food at the wedding that kind of showcases both our cultures, but also offers our guests and everyone else like a really good, I don't know, what am I trying to say?
A good variety.
Yeah, a good variety. Everyone can like experience that, which is kind of what we wanted to mimic, because that's how we experienced like part of that with our relationship. Like we wanted to give that to our guests as well.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Brad's going to be in the corner with the butter chicken.
Shoveling it. Just 2 spoons.
Yeah. So if you're looking for the butter chicken,
I'll just have a naan and just scoop it up and pour it in. You think I'm kidding?
They're just going to make a giant naan just for you. We can get that made.